Hey, yo, I got my two-step going right now, too, man. Hey, man, this brand new from T-Weiss, man. Song is called Give You My Best, man. And, yo, I love that song, man. That's a good joint, man. That's a hot record, man. But listen, I'm DJ Wado. This is the Wado Radio Show. It's more than music. It's ministry. It's WadoRadio.com on the web, man. You always give me a call, 877-559-2330. You got requests, shout-outs, all of that good stuff. Holla at your boy. As I share with y'all, man, I had a good chance to interview Pastor Fred Price Jr. It's about 2-3 weeks ago now. And I want to share portions of this interview with you here on the show. And if you want to hear the full interview, you'll be able to do so at WadoRadio.com. But I had a chance, man, to dig into him with a lot of stuff, man. For those that don't know, he's pastor of the Crenshaw Christian Center, large church in L.A. And one of the first things that I spoke to him about was his so-called, quote-unquote, beef with Cross Movement, or so what a lot of people thought.
I remember when Cross Movement first came out, and I heard they were making some noise on the Christian rap scene, and I was always like, you know, because my parents, of course, would be more supportive of me listening to gospel rap as opposed to anything secular. So when I heard about these cats and they were making some noise, and I heard they had skills, et cetera, so I was like, all right, I want to peep these cats. So I remember one time, man, I was on Amazon.com, and I was reading some reviews about one of Cross Movement's albums. And so I read this statement, and one of the reviewers said something about, you know, yeah, these Cross Movement cats that are real. They don't agree with that. It was something about Dr. Creflo Dollar prosperity doctrine. And so when I read it, I was like, whoa, you know, like, what's that about? Yeah. And so it was kind of like a red light went up, because reality is everybody doesn't say the same thing from the pulpit, but there are certain ministries you already know. If you mention this one, you know the ones that are associated with them.
Of course.
So reality is Dr. Dollar, I mean, that's World Changers. And he's ministered here at our church, and my father's ministered at his church. So it's like, if I felt like that was an attack on Dr. Dollar, then I also felt like it was an attack on my dad. Then I felt like it was an attack on Word of Faith Ministries. So that opened the door for me to like, all right, let's do some research. Let's see if this individual statement is valid. Well, you know, I did. I started going to, websites and blogs and things of that nature, and I got a hold to Hank Hanegraaff's book, Christianity in Crisis, and he pulls no punches. You know, he calls out all what would be considered patriarchs of the Word of Faith movement. Sure. Of course, my dad was mentioned, and so I didn't know this disagreement was this big. Yeah. And so then I heard John MacArthur had a book called Charismatic Chaos, and then I was just like, oh wow, all these doors are opening. I'm finding out all this information. Yeah. And so one time I went to Flame's website, and there was this little section. I think it was Flame. I mean, I stand corrected. There was this little section about resource materials, and so I looked at the resource materials, and I saw the book Christianity in Crisis, and I said, oh, okay, well, that's it right there. So they're not feeling Word of Faith. And I understand some of the reasons as to why some look at Word of Faith Ministries and go, yeah, that's false doctrine, or that's heresy, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's when it began, and I was like, okay, guess what? I'm not listening to their records anymore. It was probably a little immature, but I was mad. Yeah. I was upset. I'm like, I'm not feeling this anymore. I remember our bookstore employee, one of our bookstore employees here at the church, he got a hold of Truth's first album. He was like, dude, you got to hear this cat. He's ridiculous. He's sick. And I was like, all right, I want to hear him. And then he said he's associated with the Cross Movement. And I was like, I'm straight. I mean, that's where I was with it. Yeah. And so it became almost like an internal beef with me. And then I found out, that there are others that felt like me, just like there were others that felt like Cross Movement. Sure. And from there, it became, I guess the message that I did was the capstone of months and months and maybe even 1 or 2 years of just feeling like I'm being attacked and nobody's defending me. Yeah. So I preached, guess what? I preached out of my hurt, which one of my mentors told me, never do that because your vision is blurred. I preached out of my hurt, and the message found its way on holyculture.net. Man, in the post and the threads, I mean, there was 3 categories of people: those that were for me, those that were against me, and then those that were right there in the middle. Yeah. And those in the middle, to me, I felt like they made the most powerful statements because they were establishing a case for both sides and saying, I can look at Scripture, since no man has the full revelation of God's word anyway. I mean,
we
full understanding.
I don't mean to cut you off.
No problem.
We forget that so much.
Yeah.
Like, thank you so much for saying that. Like, we forget that so much, man. And if you're listening, I just want to tell you, you never will know it all.
Never.
Until that day when you face to face.
Absolutely.
But while you're on this earth, you will never know it all. So please don't act like you know it all.
Exactly. And that was it, Wado. I felt like that side. And the thing is, I hadn't even talked to Cross Movement. I mean, it wasn't even fair to assume how they felt. But so many people were speaking for them. I found out they were associated with, or maybe they were associated with MacArthur and Hanegraaff and guys like that. And I felt like, MacArthur and Hanegraaff, I felt like they felt like they know everything and we're just wrong. Like, I'm right, you're wrong. Like don't listen to them, they're wrong. Just like don't decipher through for yourself. Just know that they're wrong. Yeah. That's what it felt like. So that's why I lashed out, and I'm sorry. I mean, it wasn't the right thing to do, and I couldn't give a defense at 45 minutes anyway, even if I tried to. Sure. So it was out of pain. Yeah.
I wanna ask you one thing, because you mentioned MacArthur and Hanegraaff, and this is something that I've always wondered about them, because they have been so outspoken about their views. And it's not haven't even just been word of faith. It's been, there's some other doctrines that they don't agree with as well.
Right.
Have they ever tried to reach out to you guys to even have some type of dialogue? That's the thing that I always want. When I think of those types of situations, I always think of Matthew 18.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so that's always my have they tried to do this before you really go public with something to say, somebody's a heretic or they're in error? And I'm all for standing up for what we believe to be sound doctrine, but also think there's a certain way that you do that, particularly when it's amongst believers.
Exactly. To my knowledge, they haven't. Now, Hank Hanegraaff took over the Christian Research, I forget what it's called, but he took that over from the late Walter Martin.
Sure.
Now, Walter Martin and my dad, they talked.
Yep.
They had a conversation. But to my knowledge, I mean, and my dad has said it all the time, I mean, and I hate to use those two individuals, there's others, but those are just two good examples of individuals that have attacked the ministry but have never made any effort to sit down and have a conversation.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's definitely been interesting, and it's been frustrating. I had a good year of just being mad, just upset, and feeling like, wow, this is just not fair. This is, hear us, let's converse. But I mean, it never happened, and so like I said, I bottled it all up on the inside, and then it's like, I just heard that one thing that just set me off.
Yeah. What has your and you've shared this with me before, but I mean, I just think for the people that are listening, what has been your father's reaction to these types of attacks? Because obviously, I mean, he's been doing ministry on a worldwide level, TV, radio, the whole shebang for, 20, 30, 40 years. You know what I mean? But I never really see him just like lash back out or you know what I mean, that kind of thing. But
I mean, for the most part, he said, you know what, I'm not going to respond to it. I'm not going to feed into it. When they want to have a conversation with me, then no problem. He said, but other than that, I'm not going to go back and forth from pulpit to pulpit or book to book or tape series to tape series, like Pac and Biggie beef or something. So he's just, left it alone, and then he's cast them on the Lord. He knows his heart, and he's pretty much left it at that.
Hey, this your boy Cam, and you are tuned in to the Wado Radio Show. Wado Radio, where it's more than music. Yes, it's more than music. Said it's M-I-N-I-S-T-R-Y.